Well, with the Abbott government's boats turn back policy dominating news, Australia is marking Refugee Week to raise awareness and importantly celebrate the contribution refugees have made to our society. One man who went through a perilous journey as a refugee from Somalia is Abdi Aden. He fled his homeland during the civil war as a 15-year-old, a journey that took him to Romania, then to Germany before he finally landed in Melbourne. He had no family, no money, and just 20 words of English. Abdi Aden has now documented his struggles in a book called Shining, the Story of a Lucky Man. We spoke a short time ago and we talked about how his life changed so rapidly from peace to war.
I was very happy as a young kid, and I thought Somalia will never had a war. I thought Somalia always being Somalia, and I remember helping people from Ethiopia, and we used to host as a refugee. So I've never thought Somalia will have a war, and I had a good life. And when the
You weren't necessarily a wealthy family, but you went to school, you had everything you needed.
Yes, well, we were not wealthy, we were not poorest, we were kind of in the middle. And I had a good childhood. My sister was younger than me, and Somalia was everything before the war.
So, you know, you're so conscious of the debate happening in Australia with the Asian migrant issue. We've got these people making this perilous journey from the Mediterranean. Give people a sense of what happens in your mind when things turn so sour.
The things happens to you as a person who come from a country so good and then become a refugee. It felt like it. I remember being demonized. People around you, you feel always a second class because you lost everything. Citizenship is one of the hardest things. The name of citizenship is a name, but if you lose your identity and your nationality and your culture, it's really hard.
And that happened to you really so rapidly within a couple of years because of the civil war in Somalia. What you knew, your life, was rapidly just disappearing.
It changed it. Like I went to play soccer the afternoon, and then the group of militias come in to take over the government. It was like 15 minutes, just life changed it, and I had to rush everywhere looking for my sister first. You think about always Somali culture is your siblings, as I was the oldest. And then my mother and my father. My mother wasn't in the country at the time, and it's hard to describe. You feel sick and noisy and massive headache. So it was very hard, and you don't know what you do next, and that's one of the things as a refugee you experience.
Your instinct was, though, to survive, so you started moving around. As I documented, Mogadishu, you went back to Mogadishu, you then went to Romania, to Germany, before finally getting to Melbourne. What drives you in that moment?
I was the type of person always being little things can change for me at the day to day. And one of the things drove me was I didn't know where my family were, and my sister was younger. I felt always bad.
Responsible for her.
Responsible for her. 20 years ago in Somalia, even till today. But you know, human rights with women, and it was really, women hasn't been very. Somalia didn't have a good record of respecting women. So my sister always worried that something is going to happen to her. You know, she can get raped and get killed. So one of those things drove me. Although on top of that is the person I was. I guess a lot of people around me, not really, they were struggling.
You survived torture, you survived being shot at while people around you didn't. Do you think there was something about you that wanted to survive more than others, and what drove you from one country to the next?
Yeah. Well, one thing I had that time was travelling was that I was lucky every time I survived. I think people always think about the bullet and that, but always people are dying of starvation in the early Somali war. People don't talk about that, but I was lucky. I didn't die for that, and a lot of people said I can't walk, and you keep going. The other people that I was with, and I just thought every time I survive, I remember sleeping the night. And in the morning I thought, I don't think I'll wake up in the morning. So once I wake up, I just keep going. And one person that I was traveling that I met that time makes me happy, and then that person depended on me together. So that was the case, that traveling. And I was traveling with children, and I was traveling with old men. So I had to keep going.
Your story is you've written it down, and there's so much to learn from it. I think too, when we are in this current model of sort of demonising refugees, I look at somebody like yourself who's educated themselves, who's such a strong contributor to the community. What is your message to people about how much value you can add?
Well, the message I always send to people is the first thing you do is you educate yourself, so you don't demonize others, or you educate yourself for your own sake, that you live your life. I mean, I remember coming to Australia, I couldn't speak English.
20 words of English.
Yeah, and when I came in the early 90s, there's not many, forget about Somali people, African people. So I had to basically, I'll say that because, you know, I look visibly African and or Somali. So it was really difficult to, it's hard to explain. You have to be really, I used to include things. I didn't wait that you include me in the group.
You just forced yourself
Always,
into a situation.
I tried to speak English. I tried to do the right thing, that environment that I was in. And I wasn't pretending. I was just the type of person. And when I get to know people, they often were very welcoming.
You did say there is such a thrill in being alive in Medina. This is the suburb where you lived. A joy I won't find anywhere else in the world. Have you found that joy?
Yeah, I have. I got my own family. I educate myself. People actually respect me who I am, not what tribe I am. And I think it's the best thing. And now I work with young people. I've worked with young people for a long time. And I'm part of, and no one can tell me I'm not Australian.
Well, it's a delight to have you as part of our nation. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much.